Indoor growing spaces, just like the outdoors, go through a ton of transition as the season progresses. And well, we've updated, we've moved around, we've harvested, and now we've planted even more vegetables in our indoor growing space. And today, we're going to take you on a little tour. Let's go. Now, of late, it seems as though we're able to grow almost as many vegetables outside of our grow tent areas as we are inside because of the installation of some high bay lights, some 5K lights. We have plenty of great lighting out here that's enabling these to not only grow but to thrive. So I'm going to take you through what we have out here before we head into our grow tent areas. Down here we have a few volunteer tomatoes. And it's one of those things that we've talked about in other videos, but when you have tomatoes planted once, it seems like there's no shortage of volunteers to come up. So we aren't actually sure what varieties these are going to be. And I'm guessing by how far along these are that we've still got another month or so before we can really start to determine exactly what these tomatoes are going to look like. We're also overwintering some of our kohlrabi, and we have a specific purpose for overwintering this kohlrabi. I can show you the size of them right now, but our intent isn't actually to eat these. But we'll talk about that in a later video. One of the interesting things that's happened here is beside this kohlrabi, it appears as though we have a volunteer potato plant. No idea actually how it got in there or what that's going to turn into either, but we have a nice little experiment here that's going to determine somewhat how we plant these in the future. Now, as we start heading around, you might see something that looks very familiar to you, especially if you are not new to the channel. We have sweet potato slips growing, a variety of sweet potato slips growing. This year we planted 7 different types of sweet potatoes, and our plan is to grow slips from each of those varieties. And so you're going to see, just like you have here, some of the sweet potato slips coming up from this sweet potato in water, and you're going to see some planted in a soilless mix like this one right here. And we're trying both methods to see which turn out the best for us. There are definitely benefits to both. Over here we have some corn growing. We've definitely never tried growing corn indoors before, but this one seems to be a good 1.5 feet tall already. So we'll see how that develops or continues to develop as we go through. We have some of our heirloom lettuce mix growing in right here. This has been growing quite well in that Dollar Tree container, and we have quite a few of those Dollar Tree containers in action right now. And one of the things we try to do indoors is not break the bank in our containers for $1 each. These are growing nicely. Our basil in here, every time I go by this, I have to take some, try it out. It smells so great. Look at how well this basil is doing right now. Right next door we have some Carrington leeks, and we are actually transplanting. We're in the process of transplanting these leeks over, and I'll show you that in just a bit. Now, I think this is a beautiful area of lush green. What do you think? Now, you may notice that I don't talk about every single thing that we're growing right now, so you have to stay tuned to see why that might be in later videos. Let's go ahead and walk into our miniature greenhouse and see what's growing on in here. You've probably seen quite a few of these if you've been paying attention on our channel. These are our speckled pea microgreens that are not so micro. We've been harvesting off this tray for a couple of weeks now. You can see one of our friends, our friendly ladybugs, on here, doing her job, looking around for more aphids in order to take them down. And down below we have some more of our sweet potatoes that we're growing some slips from. This is a Japanese red sweet potato that we've got again in this soilless mix. It's already starting to put up some really nice slips here. We have one primary one and a couple smaller ones coming in. And off to the right we have another variety. This is our Georgia Jet. It's a really nice sweet potato. This Georgia Jet is going to be producing some outstanding slips. You can see from multiple parts of the plant. We're laying it sideways and we're getting growth not just here at the end, but we're getting a nice sturdy one. Nice sturdy slip coming out here about midway down this sweet potato. These are some of those Carrington leeks that I was talking about earlier that we had transplanted. We're giving them a little bit more room to grow outside of that small container. It's another one of those Dollar Tree containers. And these are happily under a light. They should be doing quite well. And I don't think there's a time in our garden, indoor or outdoor, where we're not going to be growing these in the future. These are our Easter basket radishes, all those beautiful different color radishes. It's an amazing radish mix, which we always get fantastic results from. And they're quick growing. And there is something hanging out on this leaf that looks a little bit different. Do you think you can tell me what that is? I know what it is, but I'd like to know if you know. And right next door to those radishes, we have something that gets a little bit bigger. These are our daikon radishes, and we harvested some of these back in the fall, and they were huge, some of them about 8 to 10 inches long. So we'll see what they can do in this container that has about 10 inches of growth space. So I think they should do just fine, but we'll see here, I'm sure, before too long. When I talk about our garden being in flux or in transition, I mean, we have plants that have been in the ground for quite some time, and we have some that, well, are fairly new. This is some more of that giant white kohlrabi, and it is going to get huge right beside what are going to be some delicious beets and another one of our kohlrabi. But take a look at these beets. You can see that nice, beautiful red color down at the bottom, and right below there, that's where we're going to start to see some bulbing up here in the next few weeks. Hopefully these carrots look a little bit familiar. A couple of months ago, one of our gardeners in training, my youngest daughter, harvested a whole bunch of these Parisian carrots. These are these little tiny carrots, only going to be about an inch and a half in diameter. So we'll see how well they do indoors. Now here we have 3 very unique brassicas. 2 of these are cauliflower. One of them is going to be purple, and one of them is going to be orange. And on the other side, we have our Romanesco Italia broccoli. That's the broccoli that looks, as I've said before, like a math equation. It is absolutely stunning. Maybe like the Fibonacci sequence or something. And so we're hopeful that these really grow out. When we planted them in our fall garden, we didn't have enough time before the cool weather started, and so we didn't get to harvest any. So this would be our first harvest, and we'd love to see it indoors. And here we have 3 of our Pac-Man broccoli. Now the Pac-Man broccoli has done really well for us in the past. We've had a lot of success with these broccoli, and we've harvested quite a few heads of them, and they always look great. So we're hopeful again. These are all plants that we haven't tried growing indoors, and they do seem to be thriving. Now this purplish color is definitely from these strip lights that we have up here. I'll try not to blind you too much. These are more along that purple-red spectrum. So that's where that coloration comes from. They are nice and green. If I turn the light off, you'll see that they turn a very beautiful green. So these are looking fantastic. They seem to be enjoying the light that they're under right now. Over here we have a few more of our giant kohlrabi. I don't know if I mentioned how much we enjoy kohlrabi. And right beside them we have some zinnias, because it never hurts to add a little bit of color into a grow space, even if it's not outdoors attracting bees or other pollinators. And indoors needs to look nice too. Down here we have our Quick Star kohlrabi, which is supposed to grow to maturity in about 35 days, just over a month for that kohlrabi. It's another one of our first-time varieties. And right here we have our Artist Hybrid cucumber. It's another quick-growing cucumber. We have quite a few vegetables here that are supposed to be really quick-growing. In fact, we did a video on that about a month ago, and we'll try to link that in the description so you can see the video we're talking about. There's so many varieties that can come to maturity in under 60 days pretty easily. Over here we have our A2 tomatoes, another quick-growing tomato. This one looks like maybe got a little bit leggy, but still we'll see what we can do to fix that up. And as we move up to the top here again, we have another example of some of our sweet potato slips growing in that soilless mix. And we have some contender beans. These are contender beans. They're supposed to be really quick growing and do really well in our zone. So we're going to have these beans. Looks like they're getting close. If you look up at the top here, looks like we're getting close to see some flowers, which means we're not too far off from getting some nice beans. This is a bush bean variety. Now as I pop out of there, one of the things you're going to notice as we come over to a different area of our garden is that we do have a mixture. I mentioned this with the zinnias, but we do have a mixture of just plants in here for the sake of that beauty, for the sake of livening up the place and enjoying our time while we're down here. This is our nice aloe, which is growing really well. It's actually firmed up quite a bit. We're learning an awful lot about how to keep aloe healthy and how to keep aloe happy. And once we've done that, I think we're going to see really great results, and we can use this aloe in a variety of ways. Right next to our aloe, we have our turnips. Look at these greens. Turnip greens are absolutely delicious. And pretty soon, underneath here, we're going to start to see that development of some really nice turnips. And right in front of that, we have the sweet potato. This is the Hannah sweet potato that I just placed in this water about 4 days ago. And you can see already the roots that are forming at the bottom. And on top, we have the first And this is what you're looking for. This is going to be the first of our slips popping out through the top of this sweet potato. And pretty soon, and this is a really quick process, that's 4 days, pretty soon you start to see this kind of development. And more of these sweet potato slips. Look at how sturdy these are. That's what we're looking for. We want those nice, thick slips here. We'll cut these off, we'll put them in water and let them grow roots as well. And here we have our curly leaf parsley, still going strong, getting bigger by the day. And we're using it as often as we need it. It's one of our favorites to use in our recipes. Well, one of my favorites to use anyway. And this is another little area that I really enjoy. There's nothing edible here, but we do have some plants that we've rescued in the past. This is a ficus. It was nearly dead when we bought it, but you can see the green, the nice new green shoots coming in, those leaves developing. So we've saved that one. We've brought it back from the brink. It's kind of cool to watch that difference between the new leaves and the older leaves and how they change and transform. You know, we have some succulents in here as well. The way we look at it, whatever we can do to make it a nice, happy, cheerful place, one that you really want to come to and enjoy, makes such a huge difference in our experience down here. Now, as we move over to our grow tent, and this is our raised bed area of our grow tent, this is where we start to see some of that transformation I was talking about. This area right here used to contain a whole bunch of Paris lettuce until I harvested it all, and you can see that picture right here. That is a wonderful harvest. And now we have in here still our kale, which is growing vibrantly. And I mean, when we talk about a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, where we had all of those aphids in here and things weren't looking great, that's been cleaned up nicely. The kale is really sprouting. Look at those inner areas where that kale starts to grow out and develop. We have our radicchio, which is lovely. I've been harvesting off of this now for weeks. And where our Paris Island cost lettuce was before, we now have some green griller zucchini. These are that 38 days to maturity variety that are supposed to be perfect for grilling. And we have some ideas for how we're going to use those as they develop. If you look closely, you can start to see again what look like some flowers in there. So we'll start to see some flower development soon, I am sure. And it's going to be exciting. We have our challenges with zucchini, with summer squash just in general, but we've never tried growing them indoors before, so you never know what that's going to look like. And up here we have our potatoes, several varieties of potatoes. You can start to see some of them dying back in here, and that is not a problem. We're over 70 days into our potatoes now, and over 70 days means that we're going to start to see some of that dying back as the tubers underneath continue to develop. And boy, I mean, this is one of the exciting moments. You know, we get closer to that exciting moment of the harvest, of trying to see what's down there, dig for a little bit of that garden gold. And here's an example of a potato plant, just like I was talking about. It's really dying back. That's not a problem. Again, if you see that with the potatoes, that's not a problem. But we definitely have different stages of maturity here, because this potato plant has some flowers that just finished blooming, so they're still on there, though they're going to die back as well soon, and these should start to join. If you watched our video on our new way of growing potatoes, or our experiment with a new way of growing potatoes, these two jars are covering the potato suckers that we're planting. You really should check out that video. I think it's an interesting concept filled with some great information. We have one of our quick growing pepper plants. We have our purple beans toward the end of its life cycle. It's still producing beans. You can see them here. We hold up this leaf right here. You should see a couple. Yep, there we go. We've been harvesting off of this for several weeks now as well. Every couple of days we'll come down and pick some more. And we can't be too upset that the purple beans are at the end of their life cycle, because right next door we have a couple more that we planted a few weeks later. So these are soon going to be at a point where they're also producing some purple beans for us. And down in here in one of our grow bags, we have some more of that Paris Island cost lettuce. Now, this is what we just harvested out of the other one, because we planted these, or transplanted these, a little bit later than the ones in our main raised bed in here. We still have more of this to harvest as time goes on. Now, at the beginning of this video, I did promise you a full garden tour. Even though I may have skipped over a few things, I think if your eyes are really quick, or if you have to go back, you might see some of those that we're really excited to show you in the future. Regardless, you can see we have a whole bunch going on in here. We are so excited to have you along for this tour. We hope that you saw something in here that perhaps encourages you to try growing some of these vegetables on your own. We are not holding back. We're not limiting ourselves in terms of variety. We're doing our best to grow our own food, provide for our own family with that fresh produce 365 days a year, and we hope you join us. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.